Welcome, everybody, to a new edition of UFO Man Live. Tonight, we have a very special guest. Her name is Yvonne Smith. Please welcome her to our panel.
Yvonne, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You're more than welcome. This is the third time that, as UFO Man, I have interviewed, I've had the pleasure of interviewing Yvonne. She is filled with loads of information that you really need to listen to. But before that, I'm going to read her bio, so I have to look over at my other screen. So if you see me turning this way, I'm reading the other screen. But Yvonne Smith became concerned with victims of post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, in the late 1980s. And in 1990, after 2 years of studies and 1,000 hours of internship, received her certificate from the California Hypnosis Motivation Institute, the only such accredited institution in the United States. She immediately began to work with PTSD victims, assisting them and encouraging them to work and cope with their PTSD. Many of her subjects are referred to her by physicians and psychologists who believe Yvonne's expertise can benefit their patients. Observing that many of her subjects were describing a pattern of alien abduction and other close encounter experiences, in 1991, Yvonne founded CERO, Close Encounter Resource Organization, which provides personal attention and maintains active monthly support meetings where PTSD victims share their thoughts and feelings about their unusual experiences. While maintaining personal contact with her subjects since 1991, Yvonne extensively co-lectured with Harvard's John Mack, MD, Bud Hopkins, and David Jacobs, PhD, in the United States at MIT and several other universities, and also at many conferences, as annually at the Roswell Celebration. She annually participates in the Roswell UFO Festival, both acting as a master of ceremonies and presenting multiple lectures and conducting standing room only nightly experiencer sessions at the Laughlin, Nevada Annual International UFO Congress. And coming up here soon, she'll be in contact at the desert. Please welcome again the esteemed Yvonne Smith.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for having me.
I have to say this. Bud Hopkins, I came into the field, I think, maybe a couple of years before he passed. And I really wanted to talk to him. But he was very hard. I think he was a very private man. Do you agree?
He was, but also right before he passed, he was not doing well.
Right.
So that may have been one of the reasons, he may have not been able to get a hold of him or contact him. But he also, throughout the years, he would receive, well, back in the day, a lot of mail, snail mail. And he tried to answer as many as he could, but, he'd have people assisting him. And now, we never thought, my gosh, now we have email. We never even thought about that way back then. When I started my work, we were barely emailing. We didn't have the internet, anything like that. So
I remember that because there was a ufologist that was working in Pine Bush, New York. Her name was Ellen Crystal.
Oh, I remember her, yeah.
And I actually wrote a letter to her because we didn't have email. And she wrote me back because I had some of the same experiences that she was having in Pine Bush. The orbs on the ground and green balls of light coming up from the ground and going the full length of the horizon. And she had been seeing these things, and I wanted to ask her about those things. And she did take the time to write me back. So I got to know her before she passed. We have lost a substantial amount of quality researchers over the past decade or more. And it's frustrating seeing time pass and we start to lose the old guard.
Yes.
And it's the old guard that did the hard research because they didn't have technology.
No.
So they weren't relying on AI or relying on internet searches. They were digging. So that's why I try to get a hold of as many of them as I can and interview them before they're gone. Now, I got a chance to interview Calvin Parker,
Mm-hmm.
and he was a wonderful man.
He was.
I used to talk to him every other day by phone, so we kept in contact. Very nice guy. It's too bad he's gone. Okay, let's get back to you. In regards to you, what I'd like to know to begin with, before I go to Polly and to Sarah, who, by the way, are part of the UFO Man podcast team and are essential to getting the answers needed for the people in the chat and watching online. So thank you, girls.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
What I want to say is, Yvonne, how did you get involved with the alien abduction side of PTSD to begin with?
Well, it wasn't anything that I planned. Back in the late 80s, my mom and I went to see Bud Hopkins to do a lecture. Back then, there were the Whole Life Expo. They would have those conferences all over the country. This one would happen to be in Pasadena, California, which was very close to where we lived. And my mother knew who he was. I didn't know who he was. And so we went to his lecture, and I was fascinated by what he was talking about and the slides he was showing. We went up to him afterwards and asked a couple questions. I don't remember what I asked, but he was very gracious, like he always was the time he was here. And I started looking up hypnotherapy college, which were very, very few and far between, but I was fortunate to find one close to my home in Southern California. I took classes, and after a year, I became certified. But now, and of course, I started my practice, and it just snowballed from there. I started meeting people in the UFO field, but I didn't know I never knew how to answer that question, because it just seemed like it just happened. Doors were opening. Right. And I could say after 35 years that I was placed on this path to do this. I was directed to do this. I never could say that before. Then when I realized what was happening, I thought, oh my gosh, this sounds too woo-woo. I can't say it, But now I'm older. You don't give a damn what people think when you're older.
But did you have an ET experience while you were a child, and do you feel like you were kind of redirected in your path in order to do what you are doing?
Usually these abduction experiences start in very early childhood. Personally, I do not remember anything in my early childhood that would make me think that happened to me. But I started having experiences in my early 30s when I started looking into this in hypnotherapy college, and after I saw Bud's lecture, and that's what made me feel now very strongly that I was directed to go see him. I was directed to um, become a certified hypnotherapist and do this work. And I've been doing it now for over 3 decades. So I just feel that I was placed on this path because things just happened. I never knocked on doors, do you want to interview me? Do you want me, to be on your show? It was doors just opened. People were contacting
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like when you're on your path, that's how it works.
Yes,
Right.
agree. Mhm.
Everything falls into place, and that's how it's been for me all these years.
Um, what I was going to say is you said you had your first experiences in your early 30s. I was going to say that I had my first recollections of experiences around 1993, 94, 95. So I would have been in my 30s as well. Um, but as time went by, I started recalling, and I've noticed this as I get older, my long term memory comes back.
Hmm.
And I started remembering my childhood encounters,
Okay.
which I had. One of which was a room full of glowing orange yellow lights that were floating all over the place, and they were probably the size of a dime, and they were floating around. And when I noticed them, they seemed aware of me.
Mm.
And this happened 3 nights in a row, and then it quit. Okay, another time I had the same experience that Polly had, kind of. I had an experience with a giant tarantula. And I mean giant, 3.5 foot wide by 3.5 foot tall. And I was four, maybe 4.5 years old. And I remember that, and it scared the daylights out of me. But when we went back to look for it, my parents didn't see it, and I couldn't see it anymore either. It was gone, but it was there.
Yeah.
I remember it to this day. Um, so I remember childhood memories, but I need to regress myself to find out if there's anything more to it.
Hmm.
Now, in the 90s, I had things happen like my clothes were put on wrong side to and inside out.
Right.
I'd wake up like that, and I know I didn't go to bed that way.
Right.
And my girlfriend had seen a hooded figure walking toward me in the middle of the night, but she couldn't wake me up and she couldn't move. And then she passed out.
Hmm.
So I don't know what happened there. I want to learn more about that. So I may be contacting you.
Sure.
In regards to Polly, I'd like to go to Polly. Polly, would you like to explain a little bit about what you've gone through?
Well, I think in my case, I would like to approach it in kind of two sides of my story. One side is that I actually was diagnosed with complicated PTSD in 2000 and 18.
Hmm.
Okay. Doesn't matter the reasons. Like, if you would like, we can have like a personal conversation about it. But I went through a huge trauma when I was 19 and never talked about it till like 6 years ago. And in the other hand, when I was 7 years old, I had this download that actually happened just before I opened a book that I thought was related to medicine. And Turned out that what I saw was a picture of a triangle UFO. We are talking about the 80s, so I didn't know what I was looking at, never saw something like that before. But the feeling was like everything paralyzed around me. Time, I could not hear my grandmother or my sisters talking, and I was petrified with the book on my hands, seeing these green numbers running through my brain like a computer running green numbers. And so I could see this image. Suddenly, kind of the numbers were translated in images inside my brain. And so I could see the craft hovering outside planet Earth. And I felt like a message inside of me. Something told me, this is not your technology. We don't live on planet Earth, but we come to visit you from time to time. And as it started, it ended. I could move again, I could talk again because I was petrified. I could hear my environment again. And so my question for you would be, after going through my complicated PTSD process and healing, with groupal therapy and, of course, medicines, and, everything I need to do to be okay, um, I could find that there are um, patients that either, suffer from a huge trauma and either can take this trauma like that take their empathy from people, get more rough, and they get angry, and and I saw in my case and many other cases that actually those traumas made our empathy bigger and stronger, and we feel deeper everything. I feel deep everything, clouds, trees, nature, souls, especially children. So does this empathy or profound empathy that comes maybe from traumas can be a key point for a better communication or contact between ETs and people like us?
I'm sorry, you said, trying to understand the question. Can you repeat it again? You want to know if the trauma of having the abduction
Like,
experience?
it's like the empathy that comes from a huge trauma,
Okay.
a key for the aliens to make a better or an easier contact with us. Is empathy a key point here through trauma?
I'm not sure if that would be one of the keys in communication with them. I know for sure that abductees, experiencers are very empathetic uh, with each other, with other people, with animals. Of course,
Right.
this experience changes people. It
Yes.
can't help but change people. Um, but I'm not sure if the alien beings and whatever their agenda is will, place that empathy in for better communication. I don't think it's a connection to them. I think it's something inside of us as human beings. Um,
Maybe our consciousness changes after having a huge trauma situation somehow
well, yes, I
toward.
mean, this happens in any trauma. I work with people who have had terrible accidents, who have had, like, say, sexual abuse, people that have been in through wars. So, and this has happened to them. Some of them come out of their experience more psychic,
Right.
empathetic. Um, so it isn't just, this doesn't happen with just the trauma of an abduction experience. It stems from any trauma, and
Right.
PTSD happens after a traumatic event, whether it's an accident, whether it's abduction experience. The effect is the same.
Right.
People
So
come out.
perhaps the empathy that has been elevated might be an unanticipated side effect of alien
Sure.
abduction by the
Sure.
alien beings themselves.
Right, and I mean, that happens with people. I've spoken to people. I've seen documentaries about near death experiences. The same way, they become very psychic, very empathetic. Some have become healers. So many of my support group members are healers. Most of them are psychic. I think we're all psychic, but however this experience uh, enhance their psychic abilities. It happens during abduction. It happens during near-death experiences. So I think it's just something that, like we said, a side effect
Right.
of whatever happened to them.
Well, I'm thinking it was unanticipated by the alien contact
Yeah,
that people have. The aliens themselves probably didn't even anticipate it
right, right.
because they may not really understand the human psyche, and that's why they're investigating us.
Oh yeah,
Um,
and so many don't. The grays that I come in contact with. Those are the ones that do the abducting, take a person out of their normal environment. They put them through the medical examinations, and then we're talking about the hybridization program. They don't have that capability of showing this empathy, like, oh, we're hurting this person. This person's in pain. They have an agenda, and they're working that agenda. And I know many of them have been told to the abductee experiencer, we're not going to hurt you. We'll be done soon. But that's why many of the experiencers are taken up to the craft. Now, what I say to people, once you are chosen for this and your family is chosen for this, it's a lifelong experience. And even with people that are in their late 70s, 80s, um, will have a job to do when they're up wherever they are with these alien beings. Some
right.
will be made to, they'll bring them up to the ship and they take care of the hybrid babies because they have to show them love and bonding because these alien beings aren't capable of doing that.
And I so feel what you are saying because, after I left Colombia and I came here, I started having my second half of the experiences, which is kind of, I am vacuumed into another soil when I go to sleep.
Mm,
And I am taken into this craft where I can see women in different stages of pregnancy and labor, having birth. And all those kids were humanoids, but they had these big almond
yes,
black of the grays. And
yes,
so that's where I could see the praying mantis that gave me this message, or she let me see through her eyes her profound knowledge about this universe creation and DNA and chromosomes, and and there were also the little grays. They were doing their jobs. They
Yeah.
didn't
Yes.
even like I'm nothing there, but we were walking as a team. I was required to help these women and babies medically, check up on them, but I could also hug them and show them what is human love and sing for them. And I think that was also a very huge part of the experience. So sometimes I wonder, because sometimes the experiences are not so nice, and people feel threatened and they fear. And so the thing is, can we ask, for example, for a shark to behave as an empath, as a dog? So I think sometimes it's a question of nature, that's the way they are. We humans feel deeply everything, but maybe we cannot ask from them to change who they are because that's their nature, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think. I, I'm sure they're not going to change um, who they are and how they operate. I mean, we still, after 3 decades of doing this, I still don't know what the end game is. Um,
Right.
they could pack up and leave tomorrow, and we won't know, well, what happened. What are they doing with all of our information, with all of our DNA? What's happening? I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon because they do need us. But that's why they need our material. They need our emotions. They need us to be able to bond with these hybrid children that they're creating, and so it's like, really, nobody can change another human being. I hear some people, oh, I can change him. He'll be different.
See,
You
yeah,
really,
I read research recently that said that the Greys had actually bred out of themselves by breeding. They had bred out of themselves the ability to show emotion or empathy to any other human creature or other creature that could be an alien creature too.
mm,
So, what do you think, Sarah?
I think that uh that we are definitely needed to help a lot of these other species, because I don't think that a lot of them have the capacity to care for others, or even care for themselves, right? Because emotion is something that kind of seems to be more unique to here for some reason. And why people want to get rid of it, I don't know. I can understand because there's a lot of greed and other bad parts of it, but you need those bad parts to appreciate the good parts to be able to help, people and
mm,
stuff. And when they abduct, they're not gentle. They're not gentle at all, and they don't know that they're hurting people, or they even really can grasp that they are, right. And and
right.
that's sad, because if they got the children up there, then they don't have it. And so that's why we have to be compassionate to these hybrid children that I think are living amongst us here on Earth. And and I think that we probably all have talked to one of them at some point in our lives, and never knew it. But there was something about him that just seemed like, too much about me. That's weird, and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So I agree. I think that we are somehow some sort of key, and a lot of it has to do with this emotions that we have.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Mhm.
Totally agree.
one thing I want to get to is um, Yvonne is going to be appearing at Contact in the Desert, and she has a presentation that she is going to share with us a short synopsis of what she's going to share at Contact in the Desert. So I'd like to get into that. Yvonne, can you let us know a little bit of what you're going to talk about?
Yes, I'm going to, for my lecture, an hour and a half lecture, I'm going to be, as I always do, I'm going to be speaking about some of my case studies of abduction. You know, when it occurs, what happens, like an anatomy of an abduction, in other words. I'm going to show many body marks that come up overnight of people that have had experiences. They know for sure they were not there the night before, and then they wake up with an incision mark or a bruise that's in a triangular form. I have several pictures of this. Needle marks are in a triangular form.
Yes. I've
Up
already
I
top.
will
those.
send you my picture too, Yvonne, so you will have it in the record.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I'm going to be talking about the family connection, that this is intergenerational. Whenever I interview new clients, I always ask for about the grandparents on both sides. Have they ever, you know, talked about seeing a flying saucer way back when? And then ask about the parents, and then I ask from about my clients' own personal experiences, and if they have children, I ask about their children. It just goes on. It's just down the line. It happens in every family. So I'm going to cover a couple of cases of the family connection. But this year, I'm going to speak about paranormal experiences because they seem to intertwine with UFO abduction experiences. They're
Right.
I would
connected.
agree.
Many people do not know that, especially. And the reason I thought about it, I said I should include that this year because I've been lecturing for many years. Because I've had new clients contact me, and they're trying, they're explaining things that happened to them, and then one of them will go, "Oh, I'm sorry. This is paranormal. I need to find a paranormal researcher." And but yet they've seen a craft, or they've uh,
Hmm.
remember they were on the table and so on. So I explained to them, this is all connected. People who've
Right.
had, and I've had it myself in my own home when my boys were small, when I was getting into my work. We had a lot of the typical paranormal experiences, and so many of my serial members. So I'm going to cover that. I'm going to show pictures of some orbs, and I know that's controversial because people can say, "Oh, it's dust," but when you have an orb and it stops midair and it goes the other way, then
Yeah.
it's not dust. So
Right.
Right.
I'm going to show different things like that, and then the messages that people have been receiving from the alien beings. Now, I've been doing this, like I said, 35 years. I had not ever received any messages until 2 years ago. Um, it was it shocked me because I was in the middle of doing a regression with a client who lives in Germany. And this wasn't Barbara, this is another person.
Hmm.
And right in the middle of her regression, she stopped. And then she said, "There's a being here who wants to talk to you. He wants permission to talk to you."
Oh,
Of
wow.
course, I fell off my chair and I said, "Okay, that's fine." And the message started coming through her. And it was during that time, uh, there were synchronicities with my other serial members. About 5 of us were getting messages um, telepathically in different forms, maybe in a very uh, vivid dream, or just when people say they get messages telepathically, it's like they tell me it's like
Yeah.
a knowing. It's just there. And
Right.
so these synchronicities were happening at the same time. And now, if it were just me getting these messages, always been very skeptical about channeling. And I apologize for those out there who are channelers. Wasn't until this started happening, um, and the synchronicities with my other serial members is when I decided I need to present this, and they told me that I needed to tell my audience, I needed to relay their messages. So I'm going to be covering messages again in my lecture. Um, so it's going to be, I have a lot of information packed in there
Amazing.
for an
That's
hour.
amazing.
Yeah. Then I'm going to do a separate workshop for an hour and a half where I'm going to cover symptoms and signs of, are you an abductee? Have you been abducted? I'm going to show slides of different incidents. Has this ever happened to you? Do you remember this happening? Very obviously the marks and scars that come up. And then I'm going to, towards the end of the session, I'm going to hypnotize everybody in the room. I'm not going to do a regression, obviously, because I can't do that with 50 people. But just I want them to feel, how hypnosis feels. It's very safe. It's very relaxing. So that's what I'll be doing with my workshop, my first workshop. My last workshop is called the intensive, and I have 2 hours or 2.5 hours. And then this one, I'm going to do an actual regression session with one of my serial members. I want the audience to see the process. I want them to see how safe it is. And the person can always tell me, I need to come out. They always have that choice, where I'm not controlling their mind. And, people are still very afraid of it because they think my mind's going to be controlled. And what if I do something I'm embarrassed about? So I dispel all these myths about hypnosis. So I'm going to do an actual session. There's always a chance nothing may come out. There's always a chance a lot of information may come out. But I want them to see the process. I've been doing this for the last couple of years, and it's been very successful. And I'm also
That's
going.
beautiful. That's beautiful because that's one of the fears, when you
Oh,
hear
definitely.
about hypnotizing, how deep will you go? Will
Yeah.
I be able to deal with whatever I will see there? And actually, I have a question for you.
Mhm.
Like, um, as a complicated post-traumatic diagnosed person, I always fear regression just because I don't know if there will be like an accident between the alien experience and the traumatic experience. So, is there a way through the regression to to separate the two episodes, because my fear is getting into a post-traumatic um, reaction, but from my trauma, and not really letting myself go into the alien experience. You understand what I mean?
Now,
So,
you're saying your traumatic experience, was that caused by your abduction experience, or was that something?
no,
Something
no,
separate.
something totally
Okay.
separate.
Oh,
I went,
definitely.
yeah.
I would,
So,
yes, you could separate it. Now, a trained hypnotherapist, and I'm teaching classes now since 2021 to uh, established therapists who want to do this work. So we would, I always schedule a consultation with everybody before we even do any hypnosis, but I target a specific experience. Like, say you want to go back to when you were 7 years old, or you want to go back to when you were 15 years old. It depends on you. I never plan anyone's session. I always have my client tell me where they want to start. So it's specific. I don't go into where I put you in hypnosis and Polly, and then I let you just wander around. It's very specific. My suggestions are very specific. Um, and so that, we would not be covering or touching on whatever that other traumatic experience was.
Awesome.
So what you're saying is it's focused.
It's focused, very focused.
Yeah,
Yeah,
gotcha.
rarely do I, hypnotize somebody and then tell them, okay, go wherever you want.
No, it's great to know. It's great to know because you never know. I wasn't sure if I would be able or if, if you need to be able to separate. So it's great to know. This is amazing information for all the experiencers or, whoever wants to go through these and hear your talk. That's great.
And that's why I do Zoom consultations first. It's an hour consultation.
Awesome.
That's when a person has the opportunity to tell me what's been happening in their life, what their goal is, what they want to look into. There's no hypnosis in the consultation. So it gives them a chance to share. And many times I'm the first person they've shared anything with. And then they can ask me questions about the process and so forth. So that's why I do those consultations first. First, I send out, when I get emails from, and a lot of my clients come through my website, but I send out information, I send out questionnaires for them to fill out first, and they email it back to me so I can review them. We set up our Zoom consultation and we go over everything. And then they could decide if they're ready to take that next step and schedule a regression. And since
So you're able to do. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Go, Polly.
Because I as a post-traumatic person, I feel it's necessary to feel that the person that is taking care of you really knows what the person is doing, and that we are taking all the measures in order for my soul and my mind to be okay.
You feel
I'm
safe.
very proud that is what you do, and I want to thank you very much for that. It's amazing.
Oh, absolutely. It's like when we go to a dentist, we go to a doctor, we want to feel that we can connect with that doctor.
Exactly.
But then this is, because when I regress someone, you have to be very careful. You're taking that person back to an experience that they remembered all their life. So, it has to be very focused on that. And then I could guide the person throughout that session. So, and that's why I explain to people it's very safe. I don't use drugs. I don't use medication. It's very safe.
So you do regressions digitally over the internet?
I do. I never did before, but because COVID happened in 2020,
right.
People were still having experiences. They still needed help. And I thought, okay, I said that I have to do this. So I've been asked this many years. I mean, when Skype came in, I think Skype was the first one.
Yes.
Right.
But with COVID, my office closed down, and I thought, oh my God, it doesn't matter if we have COVID, people are still having experiences.
Yes.
And I've been doing that now since 2020. And I have clients all over the world and other parts of the United States, and thankfully, because so many of them do not have someone to go to, they do not have a support group, and since COVID, I've been hosting Zoom Zero support group meetings. So I do those every third Sunday of the month, and then I do my in-person support group meetings every fourth Sunday. So it's always a busy month. Very busy.
I'm gonna let you know in advance that all three of us on the panel, on the side here, are experiencers in our own right, and we've had multiple experiences.
Sure.
Sarah recently has had a lot of bruises showing up on her body. I mean, she even saw something coming out of the shadows.
Yeah, like a
And
gray.
we had just interviewed Daryl Sims
Uh-huh.
again, and Daryl said the being wasn't coming; it was just leaving.
Yeah, it was
So
dropping
it
me
had
off.
already performed whatever it was going to
Sure.
do.
Sure.
What did you see, Sarah?
Like behind me here, you see that? I don't know if you can see it, but there's like a bins right here, just like a black bin right here. And I was facing the wall, right? And there's like a circular thing was here, and I saw this being coming out with this arm like this, right? And then when I saw it, it just like retreated back in, right? So I was like, I'm going back to sleep, and I closed my eyes. So yeah, I was like, yeah, that was like a few months back. But something
Didn't
you
you
were
say
saying,
the face looked like the cover of the
yes,
Book of Communion?
it does. It definitely was that face, yeah. And then it was kind of pale gray. There we go. I can say it right. But something you had said that a lot of this stuff is like kind of from the grandparents and also traumatic like near death experiences, right? Well, my dad's mom always had dreams, right? But they were pretty
Yeah.
pathetic, or not pathetic, prophetic, and a lot of them came true. Then I would have those too, but I didn't start noticing all this stuff until I almost drowned. And I remember, like when I was just going back down for the last time, right? I looked up and I saw myself above myself, right? But I could also see myself at the same time, like going up and going down, up there and down, right? It was the weirdest thing, right? And ever since that point on, I started having the dreams where I was like, totally someplace else, doing things that are, maybe planets. Who knows? I don't know. But, I never really put it all together, right? My mom would always be like, you need to stop telling those fantastic stories. And I'd be like, but these happened, right? And then one
She
day she opened
started
up
seeing the paranormal too.
uh, shadow people.
Shadow
I saw them.
people.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
it was,
Yeah.
yeah. And then yeah, so I think that's been my life, and I've had those triangular puncture marks, and I'm like, I don't know the insect that does that. So yeah,
Right.
I've had it
Not in
all.
the triangular form. But like I
Yeah.
want to make sure that everybody knows that if you ever wake up with any marks, scars, whatever it is, bruises,
Mm-hmm.
try to take a picture of those immediately. Because
Yeah,
many
because they can
times
disappear.
these marks will go away within 24 hours. And so I
Yeah.
caution
Yeah.
everybody, please take them.
Yeah.
If
Why?
you
Yeah.
can, I have
So maybe, see, maybe if
um,
you can find mine, have a look. I don't know if you still
I
have it.
will send you a copy of mine too.
yeah.
In
Yeah.
I
2000,
have all
Well, like
mine
I
too.
say, probably
January
similar.
1st of January 1st of 2009, I went to bed and I woke up the next morning and I had an itchy chest. I was itching my
Oh,
chest. And when I looked, I had a raised round welt that had 5 puncture marks in a circle.
Oh.
And it was not there the night before.
right, right. Okay.
And it was bleeding because I was scratching it from the puncture marks. I went to a doctor and he said that it looked to him like a vaccination. And I told him I've never had a vaccination in my chest,
Right.
especially on top of my sternum, which is
Yeah.
where it was. And he said, well, that can't be because that's a vaccination mark and it's relatively new. And I said, I don't have any record of doing that.
Did you were you able to get a picture of it?
I still have it. It's
Oh,
still
okay.
there. So
Oh, okay.
I will have somebody take a picture of it. It's permanent. It's still there.
Okay.
Mm.
I had
Yeah.
Daryl Sims tell me it was a procedural mark.
Mm-hmm.
And I had another thing happen. I was taking a 2-hour nap one afternoon, and I had just been talking to Sarah online, and she was sitting on camera, and she could see me laying down. And when all of a sudden I sat up, right, Sarah?
Yes.
And when I sat up, I had blood all over my left cheek right here, and all over my hand, and all over my arm.
It was square.
Yeah, when we cleaned up my face and looked at it, I had a square or rectangular puncture wound up here, and right below it was a round one, like separated by maybe a quarter of an inch. And both of them were bleeding. According to Daryl, the square one represented a procedure mark to him, that he's seen that before. Now, the round one, it could be anything, but the square one concerned him. And he said, most likely they slowed down time, so Sarah wasn't aware of me being taken. And I was taken, they did their work and brought me back and put me back where I was. Because she
Right,
never
yeah.
saw me leave from the bed.
And yeah, that happens often where, we used to say back in the day that the partner was switched off. They switched Sarah off and they took you. And that, yeah, I have many, many cases of that.
Shelley Montgomery said she looked down and there's this odd circle on her arm. She was just awake just sitting on the couch. Yeah, they can do that.
Yeah.
Since I've lived here with my mom, I've had a lot more encounters, I would say, right? There's been a couple of times where I woke up and I couldn't move my shoulder and I had tore it somehow. Like how I did it in my sleep and didn't wake up, I don't know. And I've recently hurt my knee while sleeping again. So, but I've had bruises on me. I had on my left leg, I had all the way down a whole bunch of bruises. And then I had on my arms here 3-finger looking marks on my legs too and knees and on this side too. And I was just like, what happened during the night, right? Yeah, so that was an intense night.
Were these bruises sore anywhere? Did they cause any kind of...
I didn't even know they were there until I saw them hours later after I'd been awake. They didn't hurt.
And that's really
so bad.
Strange about all of these marks. I have marks that I show my audience. One is a huge bruised triangle and raised, and this is one of the abductees from the Coronado mass abduction case. You think that, that would have been so painful. And he said, just like you did, Sarah, he didn't even know it was there until his wife saw it and she took a picture of it. So many of them do not cause any pain or discomfort at all, and you think they would.
They're super dark bruises too, and it's like you would think they would hurt, and they look like they've been there for a while, but I just woke up with them. And like I said, my shoulder and my knee, my shoulder's finally healed now, but my knee is still giving me problems. But it's just I'm not, running the mile and running down hills and getting chased by police in my sleep. I'm just not. Not even when I'm awake, So, it's kind of like you have to accept that this is happening, and it's a little bit difficult to accept because you don't want to be just waking up injured for no reason, right?
No.
And you have to be able to internalize it and accept it. And it is difficult because I have to go sit there and go, no, this did happen. I can't just play it off that I'm just chronically old and somehow I've bruised myself with 3 fingers somehow. I don't know,
Right.
And I wrenched my shoulder and just went, that's fine, going to sleep.
Okay, Yvonne, I want to show you Polly's mark.
Okay.
That's Polly's mark. It looks like a cat paw.
Oh, okay. Right. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm seeing right here. When did that come up, Polly?
Well, this one happened after I came back from, I call it the desert experience during the hybridization program I woke up and I was lost as usual. All my pajamas and everything is wet. My hair, like someone just took me from the shower. And I felt so lost and, trying to understand again what happened. And while I was drinking, having a coffee, I just suddenly saw this on my leg. This was just kind of above my knee,
Okay.
and it looked like I was kind of printed, burned with something, you know. Now I have a cat. I have cats. But this thing took 24 hours to disappear. So how long my cat should have put the paw on my leg, that looked like I was burned with something. And then it disappeared.
Yeah, that's good
24
that
hours.
you took a picture. Yeah. And I mean, it doesn't look like a cat's paw to me. Um, a cat's
Mm.
paw looks a little
Well,
bit
it's like
different.
the best way to describe it, but I really don't
Yeah.
know. It's like
Yeah.
I don't know how the hell that happened.
It kind of looks like
It
the
was
flower
big.
design implant that Terry Lovelace had in his knee. And we
It kind of
compared
does.
it once, and it looked a lot like it.
It looks like when you like freeze off water or something with that, like liquid, whatever,
Uh-huh.
nitrogen or whatever, right? It kind of looks like like you got like burned with one of like an iron that was cold instead of hot. That's what the kind of burn looks like to me.
Did Polly? Did you feel anything from it? Was it sore? Was it painful?
No,
No.
no,
Usually,
nothing.
yeah.
And actually, I checked the rest of my body. I said maybe I have an allergy.
Yeah.
Nothing, nothing
Sure.
at all.
And you never saw it again,
No,
and nothing like it
And
after.
Polly,
not like
when did
that.
this
It's
happen?
not the first month.
When did this happen?
This happened. I will find even the date of the picture, but this happened. It was during. Well, this was happening during my ovulation cycles when I was trying to get pregnant and taken on the same time to the hybridization program. So
Okay.
so actually my boy was born in 2015. So we are talking about 2014.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that.
And after I was losing my pregnancies every month. I was going through IVF in order to get pregnant. But during
Uh-huh.
the ovulation cycles, I noticed I was taking to this hybridization program. And then in 2015, I finally got pregnant with my boy that
Thank you.
actually he's drawing his crafts since he was 3 years old. My boy, actually, we went out a few days ago. I need to tell you this because this is new. And we were outside, it was pretty dark. And we were having a conversation just about it was my birthday. So we were talking about whatever, but I was seeing that he was not at ease. He was looking like behind me all the time, like there is someone behind me. So I kept turning around and watching because I maybe it was a dangerous situation, but I could not see nothing. So we came back home, and he tells me, "Mom, I need to tell you something." I said, "What's going on?" He said, "He was there." And I said, "Whom?" He said, "The little gray was there." And I said, "Where?" And he said, "I was looking all the time behind you." I said, "Yes." So he said he was there, and I was look. He described it as, he said, you know, when your cell phone breaks and you see like a pixeled picture, like little squares. So I
Yeah.
could see like little squares and the image of this little gray with his dark eyes. And so I said, did he send a message? Can you hear? Maybe remember if he said something. So my boy closed his eyes. I didn't ask from him or something. And he said, the message is, I want to go home.
Now he was 3 years old when this happened.
No, this happened 2 days ago,
Oh,
and
okay.
he is 11 years old now, but he is drawing crafts. When he was already 3, 4 years old, he was
Yeah.
already drawing crafts. And he's very aware of the phenomenon.
Yeah.
He had his first sighting, a beautiful golden craft, the date of his birthday, like 5 years ago.
Okay.
So
You know, a few months back, or a few months back, a couple of years back, anyways, a year back, whenever it was, there was a fire out here. Shocker, I know, but I
Yeah.
went to film it, and this UFO just shot past the fire, right? And people were trying to tell me, "Oh no, that's just a fire drone." I'm like, a fire drone that comes out of nowhere, only you see it on the camera a little bit, it goes right past the fire and never comes back. What? Anyways,
I
and then I
saw
even
it. It was something really fast.
yeah, and I even
Yeah.
asked the firefighters. I'm like, so this is definitely not the fire truck. They're like, yeah, I don't know what that is. And I'm like, right. So
That's
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just something on fire that happened. So these things happen all the time, whether you realize you catch them or not. Like what I remember
Right.
seeing it when I was filming it, but I just like, no, I'm not that lucky. It's just a fly. So I forgot about it, out of sight, out of mind. And I put the video
Hey,
up, then
Yvonne.
somebody else caught it, right? And I was like,
Yeah. I've got to show you my mark. I do have it.
Okay.
It's right here. See this upper part? It's like a rectangle.
Okay.
Okay,
Now
that's
that
what.
was on the side of your face.
Yes, on my
Okay.
cheek. Daryl
Okay.
said that this one here, the upper one, is a procedural mark. He didn't know about the lower one. They both appeared on my face after a 2 hour nap. This was on the left side of my face, so it wasn't facing down, it was facing up. Okay? So I wasn't laying on it. So
Yeah.
whatever happened to me either while I was gone or when I was laying there. Why there's so much blood is I'm on a blood thinner, so it bled really profusely.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for showing me. I mean, as far as a procedural mark, I think they're all procedural marks. Because people, they're up there, and these beings are doing what they're doing. So, and implanting and, whatever, like I said, whatever the agenda is. I feel, though, very strongly still that the main agenda is the hybridization program. That's what I
Yes.
still feel now.
yeah,
So they do need us. They still need us.
yes, agree. I have a question for you. I've been thinking about, we are not born with our religious beliefs or our political beliefs or, you name it. Um, do those beliefs affect our regressions when we go there, or do we go to our regressions clean as possible, like our soul is, or is it affected by our beliefs now? How do you handle that?
It depends on the person. Sometimes a person will interpret, say, alien being, and they'll say, "Oh, it's an angel." You know, um, this has happened, many times. Um, but I have not found, and this is usually conscious memories. Like I will speak to many of my clients, and their mother or their grandmother said, "Oh, my grandma always said there was angels in her room," sort of thing.
Right.
Um, but in regression, when I've taken, I take people back to childhood all the time, and that's never come out. Um, and even in different stages, different ages, um, that has rarely affected the work, affected the regression.
Right.
Interesting. Well, and now that you mention it, sorry, Sarah, I just want to add something.
Okay.
I would like to hear your opinion based, on so many years of research and regressions. We heard lately Vice President Vance talking about his beliefs. He made a statement where he said that aliens are actually demons. Now, in
Yeah.
my personal opinion, I believe or I feel we should be very careful giving this phenomenon a religious um,
Connotation.
kind of picture of it based on our religious beliefs. So, after so many years of research and regressions, what do you think about it? Even though
I'm
there is
sorry.
a paranormal connection, but what
Now, who said they were demons?
Vice
J.D.
President?
Vance, Vice
Yeah.
President of the
Oh,
U.S.
yeah. I was just going to say that now these politicians are coming up with these, with these brilliant ideas. Um, Demons, the devil has nothing to do with this abduction experience.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Because if that's the case, why are there benevolent creatures?
I mean, it is a separate experience. Yes, there's evil in this world, and there's
Right.
demons, and I've seen documentaries of people having these dark entities in their home. Believe me, if I found out 30 years ago that I was dealing with demons and not aliens, I wouldn't be doing this now. To
No
me,
doubt.
that's very. I
That's
wouldn't
my
expose myself
feeling too.
to it. But no, it these are two separate experiences, and now we've got our brilliant politicians coming out. Now they're saying, okay, these things are real, but they're demons, and I think
Exactly.
I think their goal is to keep people afraid. They like
Agree.
to control people by fear, and those of us who have been in this field, in the trenches, we've got to fight against this, because it is simply not true.
It's all about control.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
exactly.
Well,
It's
see, if they
kind of
keep us afraid, then they don't have to disclose.
Right,
Because
exactly.
everybody's too
Yeah.
afraid to know the truth. In fact, lately they've been saying it would be an ontological shock for the entire population of the U.S.
yeah.
to find
Yeah.
out the truth. And
And
I don't believe it would be for everyone.
even if they disclose, it will be under this religious belief or you will be punished. So
Right.
Yeah.
this is
It's all about
just
control.
giving more fear to the public towards a kind of, the alien invasion
Yeah.
narrative. I so agree with you, Yvonne, and thank you so much for that, because I truly believe we should, unless he's got evidence about it, we should be very careful about making a soup from the two
Yeah, I mean,
phenomena.
Oh yeah.
to make statements like this, especially when these people are the politicians, are always on television, and people, they're doing a disservice to abductees and experiencers. They are doing a great disservice.
Right. I agree.
And I think it's instilling fear in everyone, and it is not. These are separate. These are totally separate. I've done this for a long time. I can tell when someone's in regression if what they came across is a paranormal experience and not an alien experience. So I think one time I regressed someone at the UFO Congress many years ago. I think one time the person was dealing with something demonic because he was living when he was young with his family in a converted church. So that was the only time which I thought, oh my God, I thought I'm not even touching this. I brought him out of hypnosis. I said, you really need to see someone else. Because it was totally different from all the research that I've done and all the research that my colleagues have done. So believe me, and people out there, I want them to know, these are not demons.
I agree.
For myself, I've had like what I would consider, paranormal things, and I've had things that I would consider alien contact, and they both feel very different. They're not the same at all. With like aliens and stuff like that, I never feel fear, but when I feel something that's like that, then I tend to get more like they can actually hurt me. Like their intent is to hurt me.
Something keeps opening up her automatic garbage can lid. You have to pass your hand over a sensor for it to open, and it opens on its own. So she freaks out about that.
Right.
Yes, those are the typical paranormal experiences. You could tell. But I'll tell you, I would not work anywhere near the evil, demonic, the devil.
Right.
Agreed.
Me too.
I started working, my kids were real young, my two boys, and I would never expose my family to that. I'm always asked by people, are the aliens evil? Are they good? You know what? I said they're neither evil or good. They're definitely, I know they're not evil. They have an agenda. They're carrying out that agenda. Maybe someday we'll know what the end game is. Maybe someday they'll tell me. But right now I don't have that information.
Well, one thing I'm going to say is if we want to find out the end game, the best way to find it out is through Yvonne, because she has her finger on the pulse of a lot of people that are experiencing these events, and she would know. So don't go to the government. They're not going to disclose.
You know what? The government they have no control over this. I'll tell you. From the messages that I've received, they are going to decide when they show themselves. The government,
that's what I've heard too.
Yes.
Think they have control. They have no control over it. So everybody, to me, it's like I want to relax, and I'm going to wait till they decide that they're going to do this, because they do not want to go to any government official. They do not want to go to the mainstream media, because they told me they were tired of all the lies and the deceit.
Right.
And they're not going to do it. They're contacting people.
I profoundly believe that our voices, and that's why our work is so important, your work and our work. Our voices are the actual disclosure, We don't come from the government. We come clean with our experiences.
We're a grassroots movement.
We don't have the object from the craft in order to show it as a proof, but we are sincere as hell, And we don't have nothing to hide anymore. On the contrary, I guess, till the aliens decide when is the right time for disclosure, whatever that means. We are growing consciousness between us with our experiences and with our shows and with our regressions and all the work we are doing together as a community in order to do from this the best job we can for the best disclosure we can,
See, for
whatever that.
myself, yeah, so for myself, like I don't really care if people believe me or not. I'm not interested in convincing
Right.
anyone, right? If they
Nor
want to
am
learn,
I.
they can learn on their own. Uh, and if they have experiences that they can speak to people that, are interested in that topic and are not like gonna say, oh well, you're totally wrong. I mean, like I'll never do that, right? Like I don't always agree with everything everybody ever says, but I often believe that they believe that that happened to them. And that is really the first step in acceptance, is understanding that other people's experiences are different than yours. And some of them you can probably tell are made up, and other ones are you know pretty legit, right? And that's going to be with that with everything, and it's up to you to discern what it is, the truth, right? And you can't sit there and dismiss it all as lies, and you can't sit there and say it's
Right.
all true either. So
Right.
Right.
What
Right.
would you say, Yvonne, is for you, like after so many years of research and hearing so many experiencers, what's in your opinion your most compelling story?
No, they're all compelling. I mean, they're all compelling. They're and they're so similar. There's so many
Right.
similar threads that go through each case, and these people still don't know each other. I mean, people that I work with in other countries, they sound like people here in the United States.
mhm.
But the one case that put it on the map for me in the early '90s was when I worked with the two brothers from Tennessee. It's in my book, Chosen. They were abducted together as children. Um, they were both implanted. They both had the same conscious memory and then the same similar descriptions of when I regressed them both. The older brother was, or the younger brother was downloaded with information. It just, it is a very complex case. I could never describe all the details right now, but it's
Right.
in my book. Also, you could probably find it on YouTube now on the Encounter Show. The Encounter
Okay.
Show was on in the '90s, and they did a wonderful segment on this one case. So
Okay.
it's a Jesse and John Long case, and I show that, I still show that segment during my lectures because it puts it all together.
Yeah.
Just
I
it's
caught some of your seminar on YouTube, and I happened to be talking about them. Like I saw that a couple days ago. Very interesting stuff. Very interesting indeed. I agree. Check it out. Look it up. It's very interesting.
One thing I have to say, two things actually. Have you ever encountered abductees through regression that have come in contact with giant spiders?
and I'm
Okay,
laughing
because
because
the
yes.
only person I know is Daryl Sims and Polly, besides myself.
Oh no. My oldest son, when he was in his crib, he was screaming and he told me there was a giant spider crawling up his crib. Well, we lived in Redondo Beach, California. We don't have spiders, thank God. We don't have spiders that size. Um, when I lectured with John Mack
Wait,
and
wait,
Bud and
was that for your brother?
Mm,
my son,
fun.
Your son?
my when I lectured with my colleagues, I asked, have any of you ever come across somebody that describes a giant spider? And they all said, "Oh yeah." I think Bud had pictures of it, drawings of it. Um, there's been many other cases. I mean, I don't like spiders. I'm sorry to the spider, but I don't
Well,
like them.
I have to
Um,
say, I
but
have to tell you that.
now
Sorry.
I have them. Now I have a picture of a spider, which I can't even look at on my slide, showing the audience that this is one of the signs. This is one of the symptoms. So when you said,
Um,
Tim, when
Amazing.
you said you saw a spider, I thought, oh my
yeah,
God.
I have to
Yeah.
tell you honestly, the spider that I saw was at least 3.5 feet tall. by 3.5 feet wide.
Yeah.
And Daryl Sims said that he and his wife were sitting down in the living room after dinner, and they saw the same size spider walking toward them, and it looked like a tarantula. And
Yeah.
Polly had the same type of encounter
Well,
with the
in my
tarantula.
case, I was sleeping and I was in my room, and I remember being sleeping, and something told me, "You need to wake up. You need to wake up. But you need to wake up now." And when I sat on my bed, I saw in front of me my little sister sleeping, and this huge tarantula. It was the size of a beetle car, grabbing my sister and taking her off her bed. And I wanted to scream, like that, something like there is a huge spider, but I was petrified. I
My
couldn't
youngest
move.
son, when he was 5 years old, he would never sleep in his room. He would always tell us that there was a giant, tall spider in the corner of his room that would talk to him. And what do what do we see with alien beings? They're tall, they're spindly, they have long arms. When we watch the end of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and remember at the end the ship opens up and the
You
beings
see
come
the
out,
tall one.
and
Yes.
the last one comes out, and my son sat very close to me and he said, "Mom, that's what was in my room."
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just starting my work. I mean, I have
What
goosebumps now.
information do you have about those spiders? What do you know about it?
But I
Because since then, I see spiders everywhere. It's like they are near me all the time.
well,
Yeah,
you
me
know,
There is a
too.
spider in my room. I can notice there is a spider.
I mean,
You know?
obviously, I don't think we have spiders that are as big as a beetle car. I hope not. But I would say
I've
these
never noticed them.
these are screen memories. It's part of the screen memory phenomenon. I have a lot of children that have said they see spiders. I mean, my two sons did. So my oldest son is terrified of spiders. So I feel it's a screen memory for what's happening. That's the alien beings are there. So
Yeah, that's what Daryl said too.
Yeah, you said it could be a screen memory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I had never encountered anybody with a spider encounter until I talked about it live one night on live stream, and then Polly brought up hers to confirm
Yeah.
mine. And then when we interviewed Daryl, we brought it up to him, and he confirmed both of ours by his story. So that's why I wanted to ask.
there's plenty of cases, Tim. So you have a lot of company there.
Okay. Well, I got to say this to you. I want to thank you for your gracious amount of time that you've given us this evening.
It's my pleasure.
It's been really fun and informative this evening, and I've really enjoyed the amount of content and information that you gave us. It helped us out a lot. And just to let you know, I'm sure most of us on the panel are considering contacting you
Oh, I know I am.
in regards to regression, because
Okay.
I want to be regressed, and I want to have it recorded, and I may even want to present some of it on a live, because people in the real world need to know what we're going through,
Absolutely.
and I'm willing to do that.
Okay.
Me too.
So
I mean,
we're gonna do that. I think that's groundbreaking, because the last time that I've seen somebody do that was Barney Hill.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And he was freaked out.
Oh,
So, I would like to know what happened to me, if anything.
Okay.
No, I don't know.
Now, Tim, will you be putting up my website address for the audience?
Yes, I will be putting up everything that you have. Yes.
Okay, so they know where to contact me and so
Yes.
forth.
Yes. Yep. And we'll have
Okay.
all the information in the description after
Yeah.
the live stream post to YouTube, and we will put everything that you need to know about Yvonne Smith and how to contact her. Now, I went to the Close Encounters Resource Organization site.
No, there is no site.
Right, there's no site. Yeah.
There is no site because Zero is a private, by invitation only support group to keep it safe for all the abductees and experiencers. But go to my website, it explains about all that.
Okay, what is your website name?
It's Hypnotherapist Yvonne Smith, and you don't have to capitalize anything.
Okay.
Hypnotherapist
Okay. Polly, can you write that down and put it in chat?
Sure.
Hypnotherapist YvonneSmith.com.
.com.
And that way everybody in chat will have a copy of it. And then we'll put it also in the description. And hopefully we can lead some more people in your direction, because there's a lot of people out there that need help. I've talked to a lot of people, farmers, everyday people who I know, and almost everybody I talk to has had something happen. I really believe that the majority of the population has been abducted, but they really don't know about it.
Exactly. This is very widespread. So I appreciate you having me on the show and putting up my contact information. It was a pleasure meeting both of you, Polly and Sarah, and
Thank you.
And I look forward to hearing from you.
We will definitely get back to you, because we intend to have you back on with Barbara Eberhardt.
That'd be wonderful.
Do regressions with.
Yep.
Yes.
And perhaps we can dig more into her regressions with you
wonderful.
present. And I want to thank you very much for being here tonight, Yvonne. I want to thank everybody who participated on my panel, Polly and Sarah. Sarah didn't feel good, so she made it through the whole stream. I'm very happy.
Thank you.
And then I want to thank everybody who watched online and everybody who participated in the chat room. Thank you very much for coming. And we'll like to say good night, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.
In the core of Earth, do not fear us. We are only here to help you ascend to a higher frequency. When you do, you will become one with our intergalactic community.
Looking for proof that we're not alone? Welcome to UFO Man Reloaded, your one stop for all your UFO needs. Hit subscribe and join the mission.